Okay, so when it comes to our coverage over Generation X, I didn't realize that we were about to dive into a long story arc that might take us like a couple of videos to kind of get through. Now, unfortunately, that means, yeah, guys, you're going to have like 2 to 3, possibly 4 videos to kind of tell this entire storyline that we are about to work our way through. Now, with that being said, this video does pick up where our last one left off at. Now, in our last video, really our last couple of videos, we had learned a few things about Monet, and let me explain. You see, for the entire time in our coverage over Generation X, we had this character known as Monet. The problem was that we didn't know her backstory, but then over time, you're going to learn a tad bit more about her. Like, for example, that she is the sister to Implate. We also learn here that when it comes to Monet, that's not her actual form, it seems like. Or Monet is not really a person. Let me explain. Because at the end of Operation Zero Tolerance, we saw Monet change into 2 young girls who are technically twins. And we learn the twins have the ability to combine together to take that Monet form. Now, we still do not know the actual backstory of the twins just yet, but at the end of our last video, you had Implate appear at the school of Charles Xavier hoping to kidnap Pennis. The problem was that you had the twins being able to touch their brother and create this new character, a combination of Implate and also the twins. Now, before we sit down and technically talk about the whole idea of this new character, I want to shift over into the opening pages for issue number 35 and focus on a character known as Tracy. Now, when it comes to Tracy, we saw her in our last video because when it came to Tracy and her partner, they had technically robbed a school that belongs to Charles Xavier. Now, for our students, they were able to find her partner, but then later on they met up with her. Now, she did promise to give everything back, including the diary that belongs to Husk. But she said, before I do that, you guys have to help me out. You guys have to allow me into your school, it seems like, or allow me into your inner circle. And so you have the young students right now, like Skin, Husk, and also Jubilee, bringing Tracy back to their school. The thing is, they don't know what's happening on the inside of their school. And of course, it's a whole big time battle. You have Generation X fighting against Chimera. You also have our heroes fighting against this new character, the combination of M-Plate and also, well, the twins. And they call themselves M-Plate. Yeah, you heard that right. M-Plate. Not M-Plate, M-Plate. But either way, for our heroes, they're right now trying their best to battle against this new character. And you have Banshee right now trying to use his powers to hopefully bring everyone down who's technically an enemy to our heroes. Now, with him using his powers and him being sent out the front door of the school, you didn't have Husk realize that she got to take Tracy somewhere else to hide the fact that this entire school is really made for mutants, and also want to make sure the school stays a secret for what it's really about. And so you have Husk go ahead and grab Tracy and takes her over to the biosphere. Now, the biosphere is where our young heroes usually train at. And so for Husk, she's kind of hoping to leave Tracy there as a way to protect her, but also kind of keep Tracy away from the battle long enough for our heroes to handle this whole entire situation. But when it comes to M-Plate's right now having a hard time deciding which side it should technically be on. And the reason why, because it's the combination of 2 different parties. You see, for M-Plate, he had to deal with Chimera. When it came to the twins, well, they were working with Generation X. So right now for M-Plate, it's kind of like, whose side should I be on? But you didn't have M-Plate decide to go ahead and fight against our heroes. We also see how powerful M-Plate truly is by being able to open up a portal, by controlling the interdimensional energy in the room, and being able to cut a hole through space and time to allow the bad guys a way to escape. You also have M-Plate grab Sync, and the reason why is unknown because, well, it's not told to us. But you also have M-Plate say, listen, I need Sync for something else down the road. And so you have M-Plate, Chimera, and also Sync go through the portal, getting away from Generation X. Now for Jubilee, she did try her best to fight against M-Plate at the very last second there. you had Implate being able to mess with the mind of Jubilee, kind of make her go through some kind of dream sequence. Now, I'm not going to sit down and try to explain the whole idea of the dream sequence because it's not really that important. But once you do have, Emma Frost being able to wake up Jubilee, you didn't have everyone realize that one, Implate, Chimera, and also Sync got away, but also they hear a scream. We have to remember about Tracy, who was left behind the biosphere. The problem is that when they go over to the biosphere, well, Tracy is not there. Tracy has disappeared. And let's not forget, the biosphere is kind of like our young hero's own version of the danger room. So the question is right now, where in the world is Tracy at? And so now we dive into Generation X issue number 36. Now, this issue is where the story kind of goes a tad bit bonkers. And technically, it makes a lot of sense. And the reason why, because Larry Hama is the one writing the storyline. And because Larry Hama, he's an amazing writer, but sometimes his stories kind of go just, whoo, they go right out the field. And so with that being said, we do pick up with our heroes right now, kind of wondering like what happened to Tracy. Now, you have our heroes kind of begin to realize that most likely the token has returned. Now, the token is this creature of death. Now, when it comes to Marvel Comics, they really explain the whole idea of tokens, and I try my best to go online and learn more about the actual creature and what kind of culture it belongs to. But just know that it's this creature that we see in an earlier part of our coverage over the X-Men. I want to say back in Wolverine comics where you had Larry Hama as the writer of Wolverine. But either way, they kind of believe the token has came back into the biosphere. It must have taken Tracy somewhere. And so you didn't have our young heroes split up to hopefully find Tracy. But while you have our young heroes look around the biosphere, when it comes to Chamber and also Jubilee, they run into another mythical creature better known as a puka. Yes, you heard that right, a puka. Now, I did learn the puka is a supernatural being that comes out of like Irish lore. And usually there are shape-shifting beings that can bring good fortune or bad fortune into your life. And sometimes take forms of rabbits, horse, dogs. They do take different kinds of forms. But then out of nowhere, you didn't have the story shift over to Weasel and also Dorian. Now, we met these characters in our last video. And for these two characters, what they did was they forced two young kids, Tracy being one of them, and her friend Amon, to go around the different homes in the city and steal different things from the homes and then take those things away from Tracy and Amon. That's how our young heroes ran into Tracy, because Tracy and Amon stole things from the school and of course had to give those things over to Weasel and also Dorian. But right now we're seeing the two young boys trying to force Amon to steal more things from a nearby home or a nearby business. Now, they are caught by Tracy's father, who is the sheriff of the city. And of course, you didn't have the owner of the store go out of his way to protect Amon. But when it comes to Weasel and also Dorian, they're most likely going to get arrested and go to jail. Now, getting back over to Jubilee and also, well, Chamber, this is where the story goes even crazier, because for the Puka, his main goal is to bring good fortune for our heroes. Now, they believe that means helping them find Tracy, but he says, listen, I'm no longer allowed to interfere with Token at all anymore because I broke some big rules when it comes to us mythical beings. But I can help you in a different area, like, for example, finding your missing friend Sync. And so you have Puka pull out this random like vehicle, then open up a portal that's going to lead our heroes all the way over to New York City. But once you do have Jubilee and also Chamber arrive in New York City, Puka disappears. But you didn't have our two heroes go around asking folks like, hey, have you seen this random creature known as the Puka? And every single person they ask basically says no. Then the last guy didn't tell us what our heroes should do next. They should go find and ask help from Landau, Luckman, and Lake. Now, this is an organization that we had talked a lot about when it came to Wolverine comics. And again, Larry Hama is the writer of the storyline. It was him kind of brought in the whole idea of Landau, Luckman, and Lake, because they are this like interdimensional like organization that at first their main goal was to watch over Wolverine's assets, but then they kind of got their hands in other kinds of business. But back at the school, you still have the rest of the team walking around the area of the biosphere to hopefully find the token, but to also find Tracy. The thing is that out of nowhere, they're here shooting. We kind of find out the sheriff had arrived at the school. And the reason why they heard shooting, because he shot a rat, a huge rat. But here's the thing, that huge rat is technically a mutant, better known as Dirt Nap. And we met Dirt Nap in an earlier storyline when it came to Wolverine comics. Dirt Nap has the ability to absorb other people and then take the form of that person that he had absorbed. They include animals as well. But for Dirt Nap, he's technically working right now with Chimera. He also has a piece of technology on him. Now, for our heroes, they believe that he is dead because, well, the sheriff has shot the rat a couple of times. But now this begins the process of us seeing our heroes all be teleported to where Sync, M-Plate, and Chimera are currently at, because you didn't have Jubilee and also Chamber run into the Puka again. Now when they do, you have the Puka take our two young heroes into the office of Landau, Luckman, and Lake. And when he does that, he shows this door. Now remember guys, Landau, Luckman, and Lake, they are an interdimensional organization. They have ways to travel across the world or different dimensions with these doors. And so this door right here can most likely take Jubilee and also Chamber to where Sync, M-Plate, and Chimera are currently at. When it comes to the rest of their team, though, the ones back at the school of Charles Xavier, well, they have Dirt Nap. And for Dirt Nap, he has a device that will open up a portal to allow our heroes to travel to where Sync, M-Plate, and also Chimera are currently at. So you didn't have our heroes go through the portal to hopefully find their lost teammate. But when it comes to Sync, M-Plate, and also Chimera, we do learn very quickly that right now they're at the edge of reality. And the reason why, because for M-Plate, he or she wants to find the amalgamator. Now, this device is really powerful, and the reason why, because then it has the ability to combine her mind to the other minds of other powerful beings across the universe. Powerful godly beings across the universe are most likely the multiverse. If that happens, then she might have the ability to use her own mind to control the other minds of those other powerful beings across the universe. But she needs the help of Sync. And so now we dive into issue number 37, and this storyline gets even crazier, y'all. Like, Larry Hama, I don't understand what's going on here. I do, but like, it's just wild because now we pick up with Jubilee and also Chamber with the Puka in a different reality. In this reality, there's a T-Rex that has these eyes that come out of his head. And when you do have Chamber try to use his powers on the T-Rex, it's just able to regrow his eyes right back plus 2 more. Like, it has 4 eyes. It is pretty wild and crazy. But you didn't have Chamber once again being able to use his powers to burn off the top part of the body of this dinosaur. Now, once they do that, you then have Puka say, hey, listen, let me show you that I'm somebody that you can trust. And so you have Puka kind of show Chamber and also Jubilee that technically right now they're on the right path to find Sync, M-Plate, and also Chimera. Now, we do switch over to M-Plate and also Chimera. Now, when we do switch over to those characters, we still see them trying to work their way over to the temple that is currently holding on to the amalgamator. Now, when they do arrive inside the temple, they see this young woman. And apparently this young woman is also a mutant like Sync, but apparently she's the guardian, but also the prisoner of the device that M-Plate currently wants and needs so badly at the moment. Now, for Banshee's crew, they also arrive in the same reality as the other 2 parties. The only difference is that when they do arrive in this reality, it's snowing and it's also really cold as well. Now, you do have our hero find a train. Now, once you get on the train, they see a list of different stopping points for the train. The last stop is very important. And the reason why, because you have Dirt Nap tell the heroes like, oh, that goes to where, of course, the amalgamator is at. And so you didn't have Banshee say, I'm pretty sure, knowing M-Plate and Chimera, they have Sync over there. So let's go ahead and head over there to hopefully save Sync's life. Now, when we do switch back over to like the main Marvel universe and pick up with, well, Emma Frost and Skin, they're still with the sheriff at the moment who's looking for his daughter Tracy somewhere in her school. But then out of nowhere, you have the sheriff say, like, oh, you guys have a token. Now, this is where we kind of learn that he knows a tad bit more about the token than our heroes do. The idea that it belongs to Chinese mythos. But it's also him saying, like, tokens usually go out of their way to take things. Where you make a deal with tokens by leaving out a pile of silver or some kind of food as well. Now, for Emma Frost and Skin, they're very surprised in the idea that this man knows what a token is and like how to take it down or at least make a deal with it. And you then have the sheriff realize that, well, Weasel and also Dorian were kind of wandering around the school and kind of eavesdropping on the conversation he was having with Emma Frost and also Skin. Now, when it comes to all our different heroes who are right now in different parts of the reality where M play Chimera and also Sync are at, they're both right now taking different paths that supposedly leads them right over to where Sync, M play, and Chimera are at. Now, while taking these paths, you do have a few things happen. Like, for example, for Chamber, Puka, and also Jubilee, as they're going down their path through some kind of big, huge stone door that says Mora, when they do open it up, you didn't have them crossing a bridge. The bridge does collapse because Chambers says collapse on accident, and now those three characters are free falling for their lives. And when it comes to Banshee's crew, they're on the train right now, making their way over to Sync and also M-Play in Chimera. Now, while they're doing that, well, you then have, well, Husk and also Penance begin the process of being nice to Dirt Nap to the point where, like, it might turn him into an actual good person. And for Emma Frost and Skin, they begin the process of trying to hand over a pile of different things to trade with the token. And once they do leave it out and come right back to the treehouse, they find Tracy and the other two students like Artie and also Leech just having a good old time, but they're now no longer being held hostage by the token. So that whole idea right there has been handled. But the ending of this storyline, or this video, sorry, is really more the two different parties in the other reality about to meet up with one another to hopefully then work together to find Sync, M-Play, and also Chimera to officially save the day.